vocal coach Jamie Vendera here with another Singer Spotlight. And if you know me, you know that I do a lot of spotlights with students that belong to Vendera Vocal Academy. I read my book, Raise Your Voice. But as a vocal coach, I'm always looking for other vocal coaches, other companies that have a lot to offer to singers. And today we have David Lee and Elissa Weinzimmer from Vibrant Voice on board. And why? Because you know me from my book. I'm all about massaging the neck, keeping everything loose. And a fellow vocal coach of mine, James Lugo, he was sick a few months ago, and he had this vibrator. And I asked him about it, and he said, "Oh, it's from Vibrant Voice. It's the Siri." And I said, "Oh, well, tell me more about it." And the next thing I know, I get this Twitter response, a follow from Elissa from Vibrant Voice. So it was like this weird connection. I was like, wait a minute, I just ordered this thing because of that. And I think it's amazing. They've done so much with the vibrator to open your tone, to relax your voice, that I had to invite them on. I wanted to tell all my fans about them because I believe you can learn so much from this pair to help improve your voice and keep you going. So, Elissa, just really quick, let's jump on. How did you find me? Because all of a sudden I ordered the Siri, and bam, there you are sending me a request on Twitter.
Yeah, so I was on Twitter just reaching out to different vocal coaches, and when I found you really stood out, Jamie, because obviously you do something so unique, and you work with a specific group of people, with rock singers, and you shatter glass. And it's really it's clear when you've made a genuine connection with someone on Twitter. When you wrote back and then we started conversing, I was like, oh, this person really would love to talk about this. This is so fantastic. So thank you for being such a genuine connection.
Well, you know what? It's so obvious, but no one ever thought of it. And they're like, oh my gosh, why didn't I think about this? So David, Mr. Lee, tell me, how did you come up with the idea to use this to open a singer's voice?
Well, I was working with somebody who is an actor who had, was having vocal problems. She had like a pretty diminished, voice. You would say she'd lost her voice, but she could still speak. So she went to the doctor. Doctor had a look at her throat and said everything's fine. Just rest. That's what people get told, right? Just don't use your voice. And then like she had 3 big jobs coming up, and nothing was happening. It wasn't coming back. So I got my hands on her throat, I started to massage, and I could just feel the lock. I could feel that her larynx was just kind of completely locked in. So I did some massage, and I released it, and it felt better. Her voice started coming back online, so that was great. And then I said, well, you do this to yourself now. And she, she just couldn't stand having her fingers on her throat. And so the brain starts working. How am I going to fix? How am I going to fix this? And then, you start to think, well, vibration. Well, we use that on our shoulders. We have those big thumper ones. We use them on our legs. So why wouldn't vibration be useful for relaxing muscles in the neck? But of course, then you have to go, well, what vibrator would you use? You're not going to use the big industrial thing. So then you go, where the heck am I going to find that? So I started with health kind of stores looking for stuff. That didn't work. And so, you start to think, well, where am I going to find a small, fairly powerful vibrator? So, it was like, then it was the Love Shop. So here I am with this friend of mine. She's like a 50-something-year-old actor, and we're there in this Love Shop, and there's this beautiful tattooed woman behind the counter. So we were saying,
and she said, hey, David, haven't seen you in a while.
No, I'm not. I don't frequent those stores, Jamie. So, she was putting batteries in these things. We were trying them. I held them to my friend's throat, and like almost instantly, things started to feel better. So that was the start of it. It's like we felt, oh my goodness, this is really helpful. She took it away. Things started to improve immediately, and then we just kind of branched out from there. What other muscles could we release? And then we started to play with how could we increase resonance? How could we increase tone? How could we, increase people's ability to, articulate? So kind of, we've done a lot of experimenting since then.
So how long has this been? When did you actually discover this?
What is like coming on, how many years is that? 3 years?
Yeah, it's over. So I think, David, this was in winter 2011-12 that you thought of it. And then I showed up in Edmonton, Alberta, in March 2012 because I was coming up to do my master's degree, and I came up for a visit before I started. And David showed this to me. I remember he said something along the lines of, I want to share with you my research. I'm playing with external vibration. And I said, I'm sorry, what? And then, suddenly he had a vibrator out, and it was on the top of my head, and I was singing, and I said, David, this is really brilliant. You have to share this. This has worked really well for me. And so my personal history, and part of the reason that I came into this and became more involved, is that I actually lost my voice in 2007, back a while ago, when I was singing a lot and consuming a fair amount of alcohol. And anyway, things happened, and my voice sort of went kaput, and it was due to muscle tension as well. And I was still on the process of recovering and repairing my vocal stamina in 2012 when David introduced this to me. And honestly, it's been a huge part of my recovery process, my feeling that I have stamina again.
You know, Elissa, because I don't understand the whole, because I know you guys have really, really worked on this, and that's why I'm going to attend your workshops. And anyone watching this, you really need to attend a Vibrant Voice workshop, because for me, when I got it, it was more because I had neck surgery, so I'm tied a lot. I'm always massaging my neck, so I use it more just to release the tension, and I haven't really gotten into applying it to the tone, which is why I had you on today to kind of talk about that. But it is an amazing thing. So you met David. And earlier, before we started this, you said something about meeting out in California. David, how did you two start working together, and why? I mean, why did this become, you know, kind of a partnership?
Well, you know, honestly, Jamie, I'm kind of a guy in the cave. You know, it's like, oh, this is fascinating. This is great. Now I'm going to think of something else, and I'm going to make pictures on the wall of my cave, and 10,000 years from now, somebody will see them. So Elissa is the kind of go-getter. I'm the ponderous thinker. So we make a good team that way. She's really helped me kind of get this idea out into the world, make it a company, get it to move forward. So I don't think actually if Elissa hadn't, you know, shown up, I'd probably, you know, I don't know if this idea would have kind of, gotten out there in the way that it has.
Well, that's great. And you decided, of course, on the Siri. And we have mentioned this before, but I do want you to explain, because some of my students have asked, well, what about the frequency of the vibrator, or how fast it vibrates, or is that a factor in why you choose for this period of time this type of vibrator?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is the best thing in the world. We don't have the best thing in the world for this, because nobody's kind of made something for this.
Well, that's your job.
That's what we're thinking about. You know, and there's some interesting parameters which we're thinking about exploring, which really are quite phenomenal in what they do for the voice. But the reason we chose this is, okay, so there's kind of a Goldilocks zone when we talk about vibration. You know, the way vibration works is your body kind of harmonizes with it, right? So if the muscle's too tense, it wants to absorb the vibration, so it releases. If the muscle is unengaged, very often it'll actually stimulate the muscle, and the muscle start going, right? Something called the tonic muscle reflex kind of kicks in. So obviously, if we're working with the neck, we can't have anything that's too powerful, because otherwise we're going to ultimately do the opposite of what we're trying to achieve, and muscles will tighten up instead of loosening, right? Gotcha. The other thing about this is the frequency. Is this, you know, the manufacturer's specs on it say it goes up to 120 hertz, but probably with dampening a little less than that. But if you think about it, the average male voice, you know, functions about 110 hertz. So at least we're getting up into the range of kind of the natural vibration of a human voice. So having something that's got a relative degree of speed to it is actually also quite important.
Okay, so when Elissa, you know, a friend of me on Twitter, and James was talking about this, and I had no idea what I was doing. All I did was just go, and I'm sure you're going to correct me on this, but I could do these bullfrog things where I move my lyrics up down, and I would do this. And I would find the pitch of this, and then I would change it. And you hear that dissonant sounds. Now, some may think, oh, man, that's kind of dangerous. But that feels great to me. I mean, it almost feels like a vocal cord massage. Yeah. But can you maybe, I mean, they really need to come to a workshop, but can you explain to them if they already have this, is this good? Should they do this? I mean, what is like some of the basics of why and how that you use this to help open up the voice with tone?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I can answer that.
Okay, either or.
Yeah, totally.
I'll chip in. I'll chime in.
I'm sure you'll chime in. I'll start from one angle, and David, you add another angle. So if our voice is like a bell, right? Our larynx is like a bell, and it wants to like ring, ring, ring in our throat, right? If I were to my hands around a bell, the bell would stop vibrating, right?
Okay.
The dampening my hands around it would stop it vibrating. So there are sort of two things that we're after in order to make our voice free and vibrant, right? We want freedom of the muscles not gripping around the larynx, right? And then we want the space for the bell to ring, and that also includes resonance up through the vocal tract, right? So basically, what we're after, and part of that jittery sound that you're experiencing is letting us know that there's freedom there, because you're hearing the vibrations of the vibrator and also the vibrations of your voice, and they're interacting in that sort of jittery way, right?
So that's okay.
So that's okay.
Okay. Good.
That's actually something we recommend. I was working with a choir conductor / speech pathologist in Quebec, who's saying, you know, actually, if you hum a third to a fifth off of what you feel is the frequency of the vibrator, that's giving you that perfect kind of double wave. You get that double wave happening, and there's all sorts of movement in the laryngeal tissue. Potentially, there's extra movement in and around the vocal folds. I mean, I've been scoped into sort of before and after of this, and it's really interesting to see that after doing just that with that double wave kind of sound, that there was a greater kind of movement in the vocal folds. And then if we looked at that on a spectrograph, we actually see an increase in vocal energy simply from getting more movement.
So do you suggest to your students that do they use this also as a warm-up in the third to fifth relationship?
That is a kind of a starting place. I mean, the thing is, it's a kind of an evolved technique, and we get to this point. Most people think of it as this, and you don't do it on the center. I tend to do it on the side, right? Because we got that thyroid cartilage there. There's a natural kind of little depression there. I can come to the side, and then I can get that kind of direct vibration going straight into the folds. I do kind of, you know, both sides, a minute or two on each side. And that kind of, you know, it primes the pump. Like, this does not replace all that other vocal work that you do, you know, all the other kind of whatever kind of exercises you're going to do. But what people say to me again and again and again, singers say that if they do this beforehand, that it actually it completely decreases the amount of time it takes for them to warm up their voice.
Well, I keep it now for the TV shows that I do. You know, I'll be carrying it everywhere with me. The thing that, like Elissa had said, external and internal, and you see that a lot with singers when they're singing and all the veins pop out. So it does seem like
the muscles are
so like you said with the bell. So it does seem like this would also help with the outside as well as the internal muscles surrounding the vocal cords. So either of you, I'm cool with whoever answers it. So we talked about that, relaxing, warming up. But I know, David, it's much deeper with tones, and Elissa, you said something about putting it on your head. So why would you do this? Why do you move it around?
Well, you know, like if you think about it, like, so the sound that comes from our vocal folds ain't much. Do you know what I mean? Whatever comes out of the vocal folds. What we kind of know of as a human voice is all the amplified sound that comes from above there, you know, in the vocal tract, right? So if that's the case, then we've got some sort of quality of a sounding board. You know, you take your guitar and you tap it, you're going to have sweet spots on the guitar that are going to have particular kind of resonant tones. You tap it here, it's going to have a full kind of tone here. You tap it here, it's a full kind of tone there. So if we play around with the skull, we can start to say, maybe there are sweet spots here in this vocal tract that we can stimulate by putting vibration on the skull that are actually going to help us find fuller, kind of more resonant qualities in our voice. You know, we talk about some people's voices are really far forward, some people's voices are really far back. So it just can help people kind of balance that, or if they want, make a particular choice about what kind of quality of sound they want to get. So that's basically what we play with, is how to get amplified, like how to get resonant amplitude, which is basically sound for free, versus forced amplitude, which is when you see people, you know, they're taking in more air, they're driving way harder. That's really taxing. It's hard on the muscles. It's really hard on the folds themselves. So the more we can kind of find a way to get that sound happening, you know, further up the tract through resonance, then the easier it is to make sound.
Well, you know, I'm such a fan of you two, and I always give credit where credit is due. And just so you know, I'm not stepping on toes, but for my Vendera Vocal Academy, and I also film for a magazine called Guitar Interactive Magazine, which is huge in Europe. I just did a couple videos, and one is like doing my exercises, just like the stretches, to kind of warm up. And of course, I mentioned vibrant voice. I'm pointing everyone towards you. But the coolest thing, and maybe you can explain this to me. We talked about this earlier. Is I teach a lot of grit, how to do that. And I don't know, maybe Guns N' Roses, like, I don't worry about nothing, no. And when I put it up here, I don't worry about nothing, no, because worry is a waste of my time. And there it is. It kind of gave me that grit. And I have a lot of students that don't understand the placement of the grit. It hits the palate. It should be free. And like I said earlier, when they filmed me, typically your glottis comes together, the waves, and you have one opening spot. For some odd reason, I have two. Mine closes in the middle, and there's a spot in the front, a spot towards the back that opens, so there's two vibrating sources, but it feels like a massage to me. But using this, and I just did a grit lesson for my students, I was like, hey, this thing, but they believe, this is amazing. You can use this, and you can start to feel how natural the grit is. It almost makes me want to cheat and just use it all the time when you're singing. But I don't understand what's going on, and I know this is your forte. Maybe you can explain it to me, so I'll make sure I am on the right path. You know, when I'm pushing you guys and saying this is what to do, but I don't want to mess up my students either, so I want to make sure I am teaching something correctly.
Well, I mean, you're very sensibly, what you're trying to do, Jamie, when you're teaching grit is you're trying to move stuff up from the glottis into the back of the nasopharynx, into the soft tissue where you can get that grindy sound, and it's way less costly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
So the most important thing about the vibrator is that it's a huge biofeedback tool to tell you where something is happening, to show you where something is happening. So you might say to somebody, I want you to try feeling a vibration here, or you probably have different ways of getting them to do that. You know, people use visualization for those sort of things, but what the vibrator does is, it models it. You don't have to think about what that would feel like. You don't have to try to imagine something. You place it here, you know, and there, and basically it's done for you, and you can go, right, that's what that is. It's kind of body teaching, body memory. You figure it out, and then, I mean, I find for me, honestly, I hardly ever pick this thing up anymore because it's now transferred from here into here. I think it, and it happens, you know.
How long did that take you, though? I mean, it was to take a couple years, or after religiously using this every day for 6 months, it started to make that mind-body coordination transference.
You know, I didn't kind of clock as to when that actually happened. I would say probably about a year because I was doing it intermittently.
Okay.
And, you know, I think it's a question of repetitive, you know, like how long do you have to repeat a pattern before it's kind of shifts its center in your brain and becomes kind of a repeatable, recognized pattern you don't have to think about to do, you know. Like how long does it take when you're driving your car before you start to do those, you know, gear changes without thinking, here I go, I'm going to shift to third now, you know.
Well, you know, it's funny, when I created my exercise program for Raise Your Voice, I spent about 2 years, and I was a construction worker. I was driving 90 minutes to work, 90 minutes home, and I was doing this all the time. And I noticed after about 3 months doing these falsetto slides, I got a whistle register, and I actually ended up writing a book called Practice Sing, like S-I-N-G, and I came up with this 10,000 challenge. And saying, hey, if you do something, I know it's a lot, you know, but if you do an exercise 10,000 times, maybe rough estimate, that it will make that transference. So I'm just throwing that out there, students, when you're trying this, because I know you're all going to go to a Vibrant Voice workshop. You're going to use this for 3 to 6 months to make that transference. Keep it in your gig bag to make sure that you're warming up. Speaking of which, how can they find you? Because I want people to know so much more. This is just kind of intro, telling people about you, but I know you can teach them so much about finding better tone, about opening their voice. I think all my fans, all my students, they need to go to one of your workshops so they understand how to use a vibrator to help open them up. But I want to make sure they can find you.
Absolutely. Well, they can happily find us. Our website is www.vibrantvoicetechnique.com. So vibrantvoicetechnique.com is us. On Twitter, we're at Vibrant Voice Tech, which is TEQ. And we're also on Facebook. We've got a page on Facebook, so they can connect with us anyway. We're always sharing, you know, when the next workshop is. Like right now, we're talking in April, and our next free session where we're going to be talking about resonance is happening in May. And then we have a workshop coming up in June. But we also work one-on-one with people all the time, so we're always here.
Okay, and of course, everyone watching this is going to be on YouTube for years. So go to the website. I'm sure you have a page that shows like your most recent workshop, so they can
Totally.
find that. And you do now. Do you just do? I'm assuming you do a lot of online workshops, or is it they got to fly somewhere to do it?
Yeah, no, good question. We do actually do a ton of stuff online. So the little box that you see us in right now, you can learn from us this way. But we do also have relatively frequent workshops in New York City. We often teach in Los Angeles, and of course up in Edmonton, Alberta, as well. So.
Well, so you do a lot of flying.
Yeah, we do.
I'll make it there. I haven't been to. Last time I was in New York, I was on Dr. Oz show.
Awesome.
I got the doc to break a wine glass using an amplifier. So, but yeah, I would like to come to one. I love to do the Skype thing, but I like the one-on-one as well, you know, just to see it in person. So, any last words, David and Elissa? I want to make sure people really understand the value of this. I mean, this, to me, is a lifesaver. Having neck surgery, I'm now using this all the time. Whenever I do my vocal stress release, when I do my exercises, when I'm teaching grits, I think it's an amazing tool. So just handing it over to you before we end this interview. Anything you want to add, just so people can know more about you or know more about this technique.
Sure.
Well, the simplest thing, if you want to, if you're, I mean, lots of people are buying these, they're playing with it anyway, do you know what I mean? Like, as you said, it's a pretty simple concept. We're using vibration to create, a sense of release in the muscles. We're using vibration to stimulate the sound, the vibration. Sound, what is sound? It's vibration, right? So, very simple things to do. Like a little simple thing is, if you're just starting, is just hum and just gently come down, from your chin, just down onto the sides of your larynx. Little descending glides. Do that as a warm up. Do that as a warm down. I don't know how many of your people warm down, but that makes a heck of a big difference.
If they know me, they all cool down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the thing is just, for people, if they're going to play around with it, just to use common sense. Make sure that you're on the muscle. Make sure that, you take, it can be fairly intense for a lot of people, so you play with it for a while, you take it away, you see how it feels, So you figure out for yourself what kind of feels good, what stimulates the most amount of release.
We'd done a really long one for Vendera Vocal Academy, and I just want to bring this back up because you just reminded me of something. You mentioned something about the carotid artery. Is there anything to watch out for when they're doing this?
Well, I would say yes and no. I mean, like people, that's a question that comes up for people, and so the carotid artery, if we're here, we're on the kind of sternocleidomastoid muscle, we can feel it on the side, we're on muscle, we're on the front, we're on the kind of tongue muscle here. We go in between, thump, 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 I'm alive, I can feel that, that artery right there. Now, if I take the vibrator and I turn it on and I put it on the muscle to the side and I put my fingers there, I don't actually feel much going on under my fingers at all. Because this is not a massive device, right?
Okay.
The amount of energy that's being put out by this is being absorbed locally. So if I'm on the muscle, I think I don't see there being an issue. If you come and press it directly into the carotid, then perhaps, who knows, if you press really hard, if you keep it there for a really, really long time, that could be unhealthy. But I think providing that you're smart, you understand that you're playing with muscle. That's what we're trying to, work on here. That, you're probably fine.
Good.
Work with hundreds of people, and at this point have had no, nobody have any, complaint or have had any issue.
Yeah.
Good. Elissa, any last words?
Just come talk to us if you're curious. We're here and approachable, and we work with a lot of singers, we work with a lot of actors, we work with people like teachers who suffer from a lot of vocal fatigue, who are talking all day long, come to us. And if you've had an issue with muscle tension and are still confused, like went to the ENT, went to the speech therapist, those people sometimes come to us too and find some help with this. So it's really just an issue of if vocal fatigue is an issue for you, or if you really want to enhance the power of your voice, that's really what we're after with Vibrant Voice Technique.
Perfect. And again, I'll make sure that vibrantvoicetechnique.com is in the keywords for this video so everybody can find you. Fans of mine, friends of mine, singer buddies of mine, you definitely got to check out this workshop. I'm going to it again as we do this. I haven't been because my schedule is crazy, but talking with both of these amazing people several times already, I've learned so much, and it's helping me. And I do. You know, I go to an ENT frequently. My vocal cords are in great shape, but I do have a lot of muscular tension because of my neck surgery, because of the plastic wedges in the back of my neck. So this is actually a godsend. Even though I only have it a few months, it's really made a big difference, so I'll continue to use it. And maybe one day it'll just rub off, you know, like David said, after 6 months or so. After 10,000 times, I won't need to use it. But then when you release your version, I'll be using it all the time. I'll have it on TV shows, so people will be like, what is that?
Perfect. We would love it.
Well, thank you, David. Thank you, Elissa. Everyone watching this video, again, check them out. Book your workshop position because you're going to want to attend this. I don't care what type of technique you study. I don't care if you're a pop singer, rock singer, country, opera. This will benefit you. I guarantee it. So with that said, I guess I'll see you all in the next Singer Spotlight.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.